Hey up lads and lasses, Damphyre here, back again with some more Infinite Lagrange. Today, going to look at some more of the frigates, probably the Mare Serenitatis, and I'll probably do the Ruby a little bit later today as well. But yeah, the Mare S, apologies if I sound a bit nasally, I'm a little bit under the weather at the moment, but you know, I'll be fine, I think, probably. I'll probably live. So, the Mare Serenitatis, I have no idea how you're meant to actually say that. It's a moon or something. So, it's a pretty decent frigate. It's one of the higher end damage dealers out of all the frigate line. Your like main damage dealers being Ruby, Mare Serenitatis, Mare S, Reliat and the Xeno are your main sort of damage dealers. Out of those three, the Mare S tends to do more damage than the Reliat, but it's not got the utility that the Reliat has. The Ruby, the experimental ion version, does more than the Serenitatis, and the Xeno is the top of the line for the damage dealers. So, you know, it's sort of up there, and it's not bad. You know, it's 5 CP as well, so they're pretty cheap to get into fleets, and they're just pretty decent. The base version, which is the anti-ship type, is pretty good. It's mainly against anti-large. It has a 370 damage per hit, which actually makes it quite decent because this thing's going to be aiming at like carriers, battle cruisers, cruisers. A lot of those are going to be sat there with pretty high average armor. You know, most cruisers, for example, hit around the 80 armor mark when upgraded. So you're still hitting them for 290 odd damage here, and that's just at base. Once we start upgrading, you'll see actually increases quite rapidly. It is a back row ship last time I checked, so you can just leave it in the back row and ignore armor. Probably you can ignore the armor, to be honest. It's not too bad. It's like the ship HP increases are pretty good. You probably take the energy resistances, but realistically, I'd probably go for the main weapon system just to start out with. Main weapon system, I don't actually like concentrate fire periodically. It doesn't really do all that much for you, and the buff for this got the system adjustment to the weapon modification, warhead modification, sorry. So this one here, so it's an increase of damage. So you generally don't really get much value for concentrate fire because you're only getting the 80% cooldown reduction for 8 seconds every minute and a half. And as you know, in PvP, most matchups don't really last more than sort of 4 or 5 minutes. There is exceptions. A mortal versus a mortal fleet they can just duke it out forever, basically. So yeah. Concentrate fire periodically, generally not used. It's one of the worst of the stratagem types. I hope one day they rework it. Even if they halved this time to every 45 seconds for 8 seconds, at that point it becomes usable. And even then, I'd still go, well, in this particular ship, you might not want it still because you can probably get more value picking up, you know, extra damage mods or something of that nature. That being said, do take the hit rate here because it is going to help you out. You have 6 mod slots to pick up, so hit rate, double cooldown, double damage is 5, and that leaves you with your last either going into reducing the chance of your missile torps being intercepted, or you take the crit damage. If you are seeing a lot of light cone and a lot of intercepting enemy fleets, pick up the ammo stealth processing. It will actually increase your damage quite significantly because it upgrades to, I think it's 30%. So 30%, you know, more chance of hitting the enemies, better than, you know, less than 30. So it does actually work out, and it works out slightly better than this because the crit chance on this weapon is not particularly great. It is also a weapon that does do system damage, which is, it's okay. It's not the best system damage, if I remember. Its weapon system's low and its propulsion low. There are better ships for dealing out specifically system damage. After upgrading the main weapon system, Armor systems where I'd probably go next. Take the short range coating, in my opinion, and the double HP. The energy resist is really nice, but you've only got 3 slots. You could potentially drop one of the ship HPs for the energy resistance, but generally speaking, the ship HPs kind of like a flat out sort of like an energy pseudo energy resistance anyway, but it's also like, you know, increasing your damage or resistances for taking hits from kinetic weapons as well. But the chance of being hit by missiles and torps is actually really good on this. Again, it's a back row ship. I'm pretty certain it's back row. And I can't remember where you click to friggin' see where it goes. After the armor system, propulsion system you can maybe pick up now, or you can go into its secondary weapon system. It's not particularly great, the secondary weapon system, for anything. I personally pick up the intercept here. It's only 2% chance, but you know, you can have 10 of these in the fleet, and that's 2 times 10, so you're getting 20%. It's not technically how it works. It's the laws of probability. It's 2% 10 times. So it can actually work out. I think it works out slightly lower than 20%. It's around 16% with probability. I'd have to calculate that though. After that, I'd probably go for lock-on efficiency. And it has got a hit rate. So yeah, you'd probably go intercept, hit rate, double cooldown. You'll have to ignore the lock-on efficiency, which sucks a little bit, but is what it is. Or you could drop one of the cooldowns for the lock-on efficiency. And yeah, it's not bad. Again, with the main weapon system, after you've taken all the damage mods and stuff, if you do decide to upgrade it, you can get an extra 5% damage here, and you can get extra 20% damage on one of the mods. So you actually hit for, I think it's about 500 damage per hit after everything is picked up with both the double damage plus the 5% and the additional 20% that you can get. So it's not a bad little ship, to be honest. People sleep on it a little bit. I don't think you should. I run these quite often in my secondary fleets. Sorry, my third fleets, the ones that I use. I have like a little frigate fleet to defend mining outposts for people that just run in with a little tiny siege fleets to try and kill them. It's normally enough to kill them off, or at least scare them off, because they're not expecting it. And yeah, I use them for that kind of stuff. And they work pretty well in that situation. Early game can definitely be used. It's better against NPCs early game, because obviously most enemy players are going to be running the same as you, which are going to be Frigate Destroyer early game. Mid game, these, you know, come into their own a little bit more, because the big sized torps actually deal a bit more damage. So yeah, it's a good all-round ship. It's quite a cool looking ship as well. I like the design of this thing. It looks very sort of basic, but at the same time, that's not a bad thing, in my opinion. It looks usable, and it looks like it's a dependable looking ship. Moving over to the B tier, the missile type. You don't get the amazing torpedoes, but you do get some little missiles which have a little bit faster fire rate. They've got generally a better hit rate as well, and they can, to an extent, do some anti-frigate, anti-destroyer work, because they do now prioritize those things instead. Again, you have lost some damage output here, down to 160 per hit, but you can up it a little bit. The concentrate fire actually gets buffed here, which isn't too bad. So that's quite nice. If we enhance here quick, you can see that the buff decreases that time by 1.5 seconds every 10 for every point. So you can get it down to 15 seconds off. So you're down to around 75, I believe. Every 75 seconds, you get 8 seconds of burst. Unfortunately, I wish it was a lot more, because you do kind of want to go for the double hit rate here, especially against frigates, destroyers. Because Carillion, Reliat, lots of dodge rate is, sat around in that sort of fleet comp of frig destroyer. So you do want to pick up the double hit rates here. And again, you're only sat there with 6 slots. So you end up going double hit rate, double cooldown. You can even pick up a third hit rate if you really want to. I actually ignore the third hit rate here for Frigg Destroyer, opting for the double hit rate. That's just like a flat hit rate bonus instead of going for one with the extra hit rate against Frigg Destroyer. I find that's actually enough to go double hit rate, double cooldown, double damage, and I actually don't pick this up. I was unlocked this for testing, and I was, well, as per usual, whenever you have concentrate fire periodically, you find it rather disappointing. So yeah, the double damage actually works out not too bad on this ship, because you're actually hitting for 160 damage per hit, so 10% is giving you an extra 16, so you get an extra 32 for both the mods. And, you know, that puts you up to just under 200 damage per hit. I haven't picked up the 5% here, so that would probably put you a bit over the 160 damage per hit. So, yeah, it's not bad, you know, 2,000 damage per minute, little thing. They're cheap, the 5 CP again. Same for the B-type as the A-type. You want to go into the armor system, pick up the reduced chance of being hit by missiles and torps, and probably double HP. And I believe the AA system is identical. You want to go for the intercept, hit rate, double cooldown, and yeah, same for the propulsion. To be honest, you don't have a choice of propulsion. It's just cruising and warp speed. You pick them both up. And yeah, same as the A-type. This is better early game than the A-type is, in my opinion. Yeah, the A-type can deal some significant damage to enemy destroyers and stuff, but the B-type missile has always outperformed it for me against that kind of early game matchup. Whereas the A-type, when it goes into that early mid-game and you start seeing cruisers popping out, the A-type starts taking over the B-type in terms of damage output. So yeah, don't use the B-type too often anymore. I'm not going to lie. I tend to run things like the Rubies and the Reliats over the B-type. I still run the A-type, like I said, in the little sort of support fleets for platforms and what have you. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, really, because again, cool looking ship and just don't see much use anymore. The anti-aircraft type, it keeps a missile system, as we can see here, but they're only 20 damage per hit. We do have special ammo, which increases damage per hit by 60. For whatever reason, the 60 damage per hit doesn't seem to get bonuses from anything. Like the missile torp damage doesn't seem to affect the 60 damage per hit. It affects the base damage. So it's a bit awkward, that one. We also have anti-aircraft cycle here, where the weapon's operation efficiency is increased when striking aircraft, reducing the cooldown by an additional 40%. You fire more shots out more rapidly. We've got high-speed strike, which is when striking an aircraft, reduce the duration of the strikes by an additional 40%. And we also have the anti-aircraft support, can attack enemy aerial targets that targets friendly ships in the same row. So this is actually really nice. Again, same row, we have a 60% lock efficiency. 20 damage per hit is perfectly fine against aircraft, because, you know, we're down to 4 second, so 1 times 4 attacks per round, 4 second duration, 6 second cooldown, reduced by 40% when attacking aircraft. This does prioritize aircraft with corvettes first and then fighters. And yeah, it does an okay job. Personally, again, you have a lot of mod slots here because it loses... I know it does keep the anti-air system. I don't understand why this one gets so many more mod slots than the other two, but either way. Pick up the hit rate for absolutely certain. I would probably pick up the lock-on efficiency here just to increase it even further. Spread out warheads. When enemies' anti-aircraft weapons hit an aircraft, there's a 20% chance to deal 100% crit damage to up to 3 groups of aircraft that are attacking you. This is really, really nice and actually, you know, makes it considerably better. You got anti-aircraft support here as well, where you get a hit rate of 40% for 30 seconds for 25 seconds. It's anything in the nearby row. By nearby row, it means same row. Because, yeah, I've tried these. They definitely don't hit in the back row or the front row. Oh, sorry, mid row. because I'm pretty certain these are back row again. So yeah, you can sort of ignore this to an extent, but you do kind of want the hit rate buff. So it kind of puts in a weird position. It's like, it already does what it wants you to do, but you want the hit rate buff, so you end up having to pick it up. So personally, the order that I go for is the hit rate, the base hit rate, then pick the anti-aircraft support. This gives you like a really nice amount of hit rate just to hit those fighters and corvettes. Remember, corvettes and fighters, a lot of them have, you know, inbuilt dodge rates that are pretty decent. Some have some additional dodge rates. A couple have reflective coatings and stuff, which increases, you know, their dodge rate against missiles and torps specifically. So you want to try and just get as much damage output and be able to hit them as, you know, often as possible, basically. After that, going into double cooldown is always a good thing on these fast-firing weapons. You can reduce that cooldown. It's got inbuilt cooldown reduction as well when firing at aircraft. So all of a sudden, your cooldown's like ridiculous, and these things are just spewing out missiles left and right, which is actually quite nice. And it actually becomes like a pretty okay anti-aircraft frigate at that point, especially at the CP cost of only 5 CP. It's not too bad. You have a lot of spare room. You can either go and grab the missile interception. I don't actually pick it up on this ship, and that's mostly due to the fact that it is generally spewing out so many missiles when it is going for fighters and corvettes. You generally don't need it. Okay, you may potentially lose 25-30% of the missiles being fired, but you're just firing so many missiles and stuff at the enemy, it doesn't really matter. Lock-on efficiency, again, like I mentioned earlier, pretty decent. There is also a crit chance here, so you can either go down the damage route. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd personally go for the crit route and taking the spread out warhead as well. And yeah, it does pretty well in its job. Again, this kind of ship sits well in pretty much any of the Frigg destroyer fleets, and you're just using it as support. You're using it to help shoot down enemy fighters and corvettes. You're using it in that situation. That's all it really is good for, because the damage is so low that when it is starting to shoot at the likes of frigates and destroyers, I mean, some destroyers can get 20 armor, and this thing then only does 2 damage per hit. Some frigates push up to 8-10 armor quite easily, and that means your damage per hit's pretty low there as well. You're going to be looking at only maybe 10 damage per hit, and you know, even this frigate as an example has 14,000 to almost 15,000 HP, and that's without any of the upgrades going. Armor system, same as before. Chance of being hit from missiles and torps take, and then double HP. And yeah, you know, 10 damage per hit's not very good. So there is an argument to sort of ignoring these kind of anti-aircraft ships early game, mid-game. That early mid-game composition where you do start to see people running dual-purpose Guardians and stuff to bring corvettes and stuff in. You can run these to try and kill them. Generally speaking, I still think it's better to just go pure damage output and just kill everything off the board. If you can get enough damage output, you can actually you can actually knock out all of their carrying ships, their dual-purpose Guardians and things like that, and just kill them all off anyway. So it does sit in a bit of an odd position, maybe in a tertiary fleet where you've already used up, you know, winged hussars and the likes of that in your main fleet and secondary fleet. You got a little tertiary fleet that's running defense or something of that nature. Potentially in that situation is when you'd use this. And if you're a new player and you don't have much in the way of anti-aircraft support ships or anti-aircraft fighters, you can consider running these to try and knock some of the damage output of fighters out, basically. The cross-integrated cannon system, pretty much the same as before. It's intercept, hit rate, double cooldown. Again, it's a low damage weapon. The damage for anti-aircraft really does come from its main weapon system on this. So yeah, just be aware of that. And it is pretty much only good against fighters and corvettes. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.